Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Midday Market Report for Tuesday, February 28, 2023. The last afternoon in the month of February. That's right, March 1st is tomorrow. March Madness, Selection Sunday. Conference championships. Next thing you know will be April, the start of MLB, the Final Four. A couple of weeks from the Masters, and then Pops will be coming back in around the backstretch for the Kentucky Derby. And a good friend and colleague, our weekly trip out to LA to talk with Pops, to talk about LeBron, to talk about the Dodgers, to talk about UCLA. Boxing expert, and I'm going to start with some so-called boxing. I know that will get him going early this morning. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the legend himself, the one and only Mr. Pops Diabase.
What
up, Pops?
What's going on, Jeff? How's everything going?
It's going. How about yourself?
I'm good, brother. I'm always a pleasure to be here with you, man. You already know what time it is. Tuesday. It's not early though. Don't think it's early because if you're in LA, you better be moving at 10 o'clock, or if you're not moving, you snoozing. So it is what it is. What's up though, Jeff?
Listen, I'm not a boxing expert. I was an expert back in the day with Sugar Ray, with Marvin,
when it was relevant.
When exactly. Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns, and then, of course, the biggest Evander Holyfield fan in the world with Mike Tyson and all those other guys. But I read the market, and I can read the market as good as anyone. And I know I had a few shows last week that talked about Jake Paul, and probably one of the greatest marketers in the history. What he can do, how he can promote, and how the guy is just making bank. And the real numbers was a pick 'em. The real numbers wasn't him closing minus 160 or minus 170. It's like when Conor McGregor fights. The world's going to be on him by the start of the fight, and the world was going to be on Jake Paul the start of that fight. And I didn't watch the fight. I saw glimpses, I saw some highlights, and again, I'm not comparing boxing, what you and I talk about, what you and I have lived, to what people witnessed. But of course it was a loss, his first loss, and of course the rematch, I think, out in LA. But tell me what you thought leading up to the fight, and obviously what transpired, Pops.
Well, I put it out on Twitter, bro, that pretty much I said whenever the public starts backing somebody that they've hated throughout the whole time they've been doing their thing, that's the time to fade them, because they're not going to win today. Because that's what I call the old switcheroo right there. Now, if we back him, he'll lose now. If we say we like him, it'll go the way we want it to go. You know what I mean? And I said that I don't like anything about this when I saw that Jake was the favorite. Because Jake's not a professional boxer. He's just becoming a professional. He's a boxer. He's a guy that picked up boxing, and he has a lot of money, and he's able to put on his own fights. What he did was he got with the right people. In the beginning, it was Eddie Hearn with his own. And what he did was you hire people that are kind of low on the totem pole, but they're assets to that company, but they're not as needed as much. They can be replaced. So you bring these people onto your team, and then you keep growing. Went over there to Triller. They made a ton of money with Triller on pay-per-view. but that's because he was on the back of Mike Tyson, right? But he helped that show sell because he was a part of that show. You move on, you do the Askren fight. That's his first headline event. He has an emphatic knockout in that situation. So here comes some more money because you knocked out a guy that's supposed to be seen as a top level fighter, even though he's not a boxer. He was a top level fighter in his prime. You know what I mean? And so that's okay. Now we're taking you a little seriously. Then he had a little bit of I would say bump in the road. Not somewhat. He won the fight, but let's keep it real. When he fought Woodley and Woodley did what he did in the fight, stunning Jake a little bit. He almost knocked Jake out. Jake had a I seen Jesus moment and retired for about 3 days because the boxing life got real. That this shit that the lights can get cut out. But then he got his confidence back with knocking out Woodley the next time around. You know what I mean? And again, okay, now they're saying the fight's rigged. And then of all people, let's not even act like this isn't true. About 15 years ago, 10 years ago, the biggest fighter in the world was Anderson Silva. Period, point blank. So fighting Anderson Silva at 50, you would still think that it's Jake Paul. He doesn't have that much experience fighting. He should have a real, it doesn't matter that Anderson's almost 50. He'll kick his ass, right? Well, that didn't happen. And so then now everybody's somewhat impressed with what Jake's doing. And all of a sudden, but all this happened because Tommy Fury kept messing up the fight. Tommy Fury wouldn't come over to America to fight him. And I feel like Tommy Fury was not taking the situation as seriously. But as Jake keeps making more money and he keeps making more money and things look good, they finally come around to it and they do the old Vince McMahon trick. They have you fly out the country, fight in a foreign country, and boom, here you are. You're over here. Now you're fighting against a guy that is somebody's brother that's famous, but they're trying to make you somewhat famous because you're a reality show guy and you guys kind of make some good dance partners. And then Jake goes out there and knocks him down. And now, okay, it's validated in series, but he still got worked in the fight. He still got outboxed. He still got a lesson in boxing. That's what happened. He got a lesson in boxing. And what happened is that usually when he wins, it was rigged and it was this, it was that. As soon as he lost, oh, he's a real boxer. Oh, he does that. He's good. And you see, it's my new thing. These people love losers. They love you to lose. They don't like you to win. LeBron has a hard time because he wins a lot. And when he's winning and he's breaking records, he keeps breaking your favorites record. And so I can't stand him because he's achieving goals and he's not going to let Michael Jordan be the one and only. You know what I mean? Well, I got news for all you sports fans. Jordan was never the one and only. There's so many great basketball players that bless the game. He's the greatest marketing basketball player. He's the greatest competitor. We can't keep saying you're the greatest at everything. I would say the greatest competitor, the greatest winner, and the greatest, marketer of the game. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, if he was selling a bunch of Chuck Taylors, that wouldn't have been cool. But he went and got an innovative situation, and everybody ran with it. But Jordan dealt with the same thing that Jake Paul did, where people didn't like you because you were a threat to their favorite teams, the Celtics, the Lakers, the Pistons, the Sixers. You know what I mean? And then after a while, they just got to get with it because they're marketing you so well, and you are a money machine. And in boxing, when you're a money machine, you're going to keep getting the call. It don't matter. It don't matter how fans feel. It don't matter how people feel. You're going to keep getting the call because you put butts in the seats and you bring eyes to the wall. That's it. That's it. And I think Jake Paul went ahead and got himself another monster victory. He walked out of that bad boy with $30 million. He didn't lose. Jeff, I'm going to say it again. He didn't lose. Only people that felt like he lost and was happy about him losing is that still got to wake up tomorrow morning and go live their regular basic lives and hope they can pay their bills on time. Jake Paul ain't got no issues. Jake Paul went out there and staged another coup on the sports industry. And you know what? Much power to him, because if you got the power, you got to use it.
I agree. I do, and I've been sitting back on the side.
Disagree, Jeff. You're supposed to be Skip Bayless right now. You're supposed to be put your glasses back on. I don't even wear glasses.
No, you know what? The funny thing is, as you were talking, I'm trying to play this out. So they have the rematch, and what if Jake wins? They're going to have the trilogy. And again, the luster was Jake undefeated. And when you dig deep, what did he have? 5 or 6 fights, however many it was. But again, now I'm kind of curious the viewership on the second fight, and if he does win, will there be a trilogy? But I could give a rat's ass on that, so we'll move on. As your Lakers were rounding into form, and I'm sitting back looking at future tickets, I don't think they have enough ammo to make the full run. But in my eyes, I saw them making not the play-in game. I saw them making a push to the playoffs, whether the 7th or the 8th seed. And then LeBron goes down. Epic comeback on Sunday, down 27. They come all the way back to beat the Mavericks, and then they showed him leaving the facility limping, and now he's going to be out for an extended period of time. AD's back. He's healthy. All your moves have paid off. You and I talked backstage. Give us the temperature in the Lakers.
I would say that right now, it's a kind of like if you were watching the game Sunday, you had the idea that LeBron ain't gonna be playing in the game Tuesday. You know what I mean? Because the way that it just was the approach. LeBron did us the greatest favor. Didn't go to the locker room. He finished up the game because it was a heat of the moment game, and adrenaline will get you through. And that's exactly what happened with LeBron. Adrenaline will get you through. So as soon as LeBron gets hurt, then everybody wants to start complaining about load management. He should still be playing. Wah. You know what I mean? He did the right thing by coming back in the game. Maybe he didn't do the right thing, Jeff. Maybe he could have sat out the game because the Lakers' momentum was still riding. You know what I mean? It was riding high. And the way Vanderbilt was playing defense and the way that they were jumping in the passing lane, it was a luxury having LeBron in the game. It wasn't really a need. Yeah, he added 26 points to what you did, but the most important performance was the 15-17 that came from Jared Vanderbilt, because what he did was he decided to go ahead and say, Luka, let's go ahead and keep it real. We know you're really good, but when I go ahead and put this length on you and this real defense on you, it's going to be different because I'm not scared of you. And so what happened was that he got a real introduction to what street ball defense is. Luka Doncic, and all this, and bully balls and all this other extra stuff that they were coming up with. You throw some length on that, ain't none of that going to happen. So pretty much by them shutting down Luka after Luka had a hot start, because Luka had a bad second half. They're not going to talk to you about that, though. But he was atrocious in the second half. And I think that when it comes down to it, that the Lakers are you can go ahead and do this on your own right now. LeBron is a very, very needed piece. But at the end of the day, though, you have to understand that LeBron's 38 years old. Everybody else is 29. So you're going to have LeBron out. You know what I mean? And I think that we have the players in place to where people can step up and help us win the game. It wasn't like that before when you had Matt Ryan, the DoorDash driver, Russell Westbrook out of his mind literally every night, trying to figure out how to, be comfortable. Pat Beverly literally being a nuisance on the team and getting a technical at every given moment. And then guys like Kendrick Nunn always staying hurt, so pretty much all the guys that they got rid of except for Thomas Bryant were all needed removals of the team. And I hate to say it because I really liked what Russell was doing most of the year. I just didn't like it when he was over there blowing layups and missing wide open threes. You know what I mean? But the defense, the passing, all that was great. And I thought that was going to be a great bonus for the Clippers moving forward, but it's actually he's taken that kind of losing stigma, the way that they've been losing, Jeff, with the Lakers, because the Lakers have lost more close games than anybody in the NBA, and have won more close games than anybody in the NBA. So I feel like Russ took by Russ taking his services over to the Clippers, it kind of all the bad mojo that kept rubbing off on us during these games is now starting to rub off on him. So I'm like, my joke the other day was it might have been Russ. You know what I mean? That was the hold up. But I feel like guys like you bring back D'Angelo. D'Angelo is trying to prove to all of us that he wants to be a Laker. He never wanted to leave the Lakers, and he's going to try to have the biggest impact by making sure AD is fed a lot. You know what I mean? And making sure that he's comfortable in what he's doing. So then they can start come up with their own 1-2. I think that what you miss the most is LeBron's leadership and him motivating the guys, but he'll be right there on the bench doing that. You know what I mean? LeBron ain't going nowhere. See, that's one thing people can say about LeBron that's really good. Other stars would go ahead and sit out. Even Kobe. If Kobe was hurt or something like that, he might not be on the bench with you that night. You know what I mean? LeBron, if he's hurt, he's still going to be on the bench with you regardless. And I think that just by having LeBron there to motivate you on the sideline, it's going to be like you're going to miss his points, you're going to miss his production, but just having his voice out there still should be able to get you over the top, Jeff.
No, I'm excited. I listen, it's the wild, wild west for sure. I think, it honestly, when you look at it, outside looking in, Pops, I think it's going to be last man standing, meaning a war of nutrition. I mean, a lot of these teams are built with a couple key cogs. I talk about the Suns, and I'll say it. They're going to go as far as Chris Paul and the hamstring go. We talk about Denver. No one wants to talk about Denver, but obviously they got the potential MVP. And with the Joker, they have Murray, who's going to be that key component. Okay, you break all these teams down, and how far will Luka and Kyrie go? Listen, they got hot in the playoffs last year. The Mavericks did. Do I see that happening this year? Probably not. I don't. I just don't believe in that dynamic duo. You have the pieces. I just don't know how far the will and the heart and can AD and LeBron stay healthy? And in the initial first couple series, are they winning in, 5 or 6 games? How many 7-game series can these two get to? But, I got to listen to all the Green Nation last night, how the refs destroyed Tatum and the Celtics. Well, when you start the game 1 for 15 from 3 and you end up 8 for 40 at one point, I mean, you're not going to win many games. And how many games have you won when the script is flipped? So I don't want to hear about the refs and all that garbage, but we'll be talking every Tuesday about the NBA for sure there, Pops. Speaking of injuries, I know it's next man up. I get that part. Okay, but before we came on, Gavin Lux out for the year. You got no Trey Turner. He's in Philly. You lost Cody Bellinger, which I know. All these things I get next man up. I get we're so deep. I get all that. Sooner or later, it's going to catch up to you. So go ahead, talk Dodger talk for me.
Hey, look, Jeff. I know, and it's funny. Like I hope I'm not pissing you off with the shrugs and I'm just trying to be that fan, like the fan that can be like, I can move on. You know what I mean? I'm not in love with you guys. You're not. It's not going to end my fanhood of the Dodgers. Okay, let's start off first. I'm not paying Trey Turner $350 million to hit singles and doubles. Okay, I'm just not doing it. Philly is just overspending for attention. They know that because eventually these guys are assets that they move on later on down the road. This is about a 5-6 year experiment that they're going to do. And then when it doesn't work, they'll move them down the road for assets. It always works like this. None of these guys are going to finish out 13-year contracts. They're not going to be playing this great for 13 years. You know what I mean? Like for 13 years straight. I give them about 40% of the contract for them to be, worth the money. But okay, we lose Trey Turner. That was a luxury that you want to keep, but you know what? You're not going to overspend for that. You don't have to. Justin Turner, losing him, that was more about money, and freeing up money, thinking about next season and knowing that you got 2 or 3 guys behind him that are probably better than him right now because he's declining. It's simple. He's hurt. You know what I mean? But losing Gavin Lux was huge because Gavin Lux was a part of this new blood that the Dodgers somewhat have in place. Cody Bellinger really needed they really needed a separation. I think Cody Bellinger will find his way back to the Dodgers, to be honest with you. I think that he needed a breath of fresh air, go to another market, which is Chicago, which is a great market to go to and actually get yourself back together. A lot of guys have went to the Cubs and gotten their careers back together, or the Cubs moved you to a team mid-season and you got your career back together. A la Jock Peterson got paid just because of that, and I think that losing Cody is really more significant in Trey Turner because he was more homegrown and he had already established himself as a fan favorite. And his defensive presence was much better than Trey Turner's. Trey Turner is a big reason why, that San Diego game got a little out of hand when he couldn't field that ball. So, and it's not like, and they're not going to be perfect every time. So it's not like, but that's what I'm talking about. You're a great hitter, but you want your infielders to be clutch. You want your infielders to be way better defensively than they are offensively. You know that, Jeff. Second, that's why we call them the up the middle guys. Up the middle guys are not supposed to be 40 home run guys, 150 RBI guys. They're usually your leadoff man and your guys that get things started. You know what I mean? So I feel like when it comes down to it, the Dodgers had to see what they have down in the farm. The Dodgers have spent a lot of money on these guys, and we didn't get the results that we wanted. The Trey Turner experience did not work out the way that it was supposed to. The Dodgers fell short each time. We didn't play in the World Series with him. We played in the World Series with little basic guys like, damn, he's still with us too. Why is his name slipping my mind right now? Number 3, Taylor. We won the World Series with guys like Chris Taylor and guys like we won it with some real whatever guys. Jock Peterson, all those guys were together for a long time. And my thing was like this: when you start bringing in the outsiders, it started getting different. You know what I mean? And Freddie Freeman, I think that he's a great piece to have. And by having Freddie and Mookie be your top 2 guys, you got 2 future Hall of Famers. Yeah, it sounds crazy today, but those 2 guys will be Hall of Famers on the way that the MLB is working today. They probably are in the group of guys that will be Hall of Famers out of this pool of players. It won't be in the next 2 years, but it'll be in the next decade or so. You know what I mean? And so I feel you got enough leaders on the Dodgers right now to push forward and have a great season. Clayton Kershaw is coming back. He's not 100% healthy. He'll never be 100% healthy. When you have a bad back, you have a bad back. It's that simple. Bad backs are always going to rear their ugly head. It doesn't matter. But I think by just having his presence around that pitching staff with Mark Pryor, that's where the Dodgers know where all the wins come from. The Dodgers, that's great. They score a lot of runs in games. But at the end of the day, that pitching is the best in the MLB, been the best in the MLB the last 5 years. And I truly do think that as long as the Dodgers have their best pitchers healthy, all they need is these guys to just go in there and figure out how to score runs. And it don't really matter who it's going to be at the end of the day, because the Dodgers had so many lineup changes last year to where you got comfortable with whomever the Dodgers had in the lineup. So I think they've reached that point to where the Dodgers have mastered the replacement game. I think a lot of teams like the Royals and the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. These teams get in trouble because they get these 4 or 5 great players, and then they only want to pay one of them. And then they wind up doing the same thing they always do, moving guys for assets, and they're just moving guys for more players that they're going to send somewhere else. The Dodgers really have, if you're good with the Dodgers in developing, you're going to play for the Dodgers most times, unless they're getting a superstar out of it. So I think that by the way the Dodgers develop their talent, and it's mostly homegrown, that we won't miss a beat. But we won't be a team that wins 111 games this year. I'll keep it real. We probably win 100, okay? But all in all, though, the best thinking for the Dodgers right now is to take it one game at a time and understand that you're not the favorite this year. It's going to be a San Diego Padres world this year. Everybody's going to be Padre this, Padre that, going to be wearing Padre jerseys because a lot of people jumped on the Padres bandwagon the moment that they beat the Dodgers. And it's all good because when my Dodgers come back and sweep them in the playoffs this year, I don't want to see who was it? Mark Davis, Plum, her wife, aka her husband, her boyfriend, her Mrs. Waller. You know, me and Jeff are still mad. Me and Jeff are mad at Waller because he literally he blew the Raiders season, then he blew Jets fantasy season as well too. You know what I mean? And then the guy still was walking around as if it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but he wasn't. He supposedly he wasn't healthy, but he was healthy enough to escort her to all the award shows, to the basketball game, to the baseball game. He was there when she won the championship, but he was barely there for the Raiders. Now you see his buddy Derek Carr sitting over here, has to go to New Orleans to resurrect his career. And don't get me started if he has to go to the Jets. I'm telling you right now, Derek Carr is not going to the Jets. He don't have the spine for it. If you couldn't handle those little desert rats out in Vegas that are the journalists, you're not gonna be able to handle these Stephen A. Smith types. You know what I mean? The guys that know how to spin stories better than anybody. But all in all, you know, I'm talking baseball, and I talked about the AL East last week on the Primetime Angles. You guys can catch that daily on my live, or you guys can watch the replay on my YouTube page. But all in all, I have it set up like this, Jeff. This is my futures for the AL East, because I feel like the AL East is not going to be as good as they were last year, but they're still going to be very instrumental in, baseball viewing. You know what I mean? Because it's the Yankees, the Red Sox, but you add back in the Blue Jays as well too. The Blue Jays might be the one team that you need to take your butt to Vegas or take your butt over to wherever local casinos out there in Mass right now. What's your one, Jeff? I guess it would be MGM, right?
What's that?
What's the book that you would suggest anybody go to out there in your area?
Currently, right now, there's 3. There is Plain Ridge, which is a bar stools. Then you have BetMGM, which is Encore, and then BetMGM Encore, and then you have Springfield, which is I'm screwing this up. You got Plain Ridge, Encore in Boston, and Springfield. And then soon there will be Raynham and Suffolk Downs as well. The mobile apps go live on March 10th. There'll be 7 of them, and then there'll be 3 more. So there'll be 10 apps in Massachusetts eventually as well, Pops.
Well, my thing is go on down to Encore, and I would say go ahead and book the Toronto Blue Jays just for some fun to win the World Series this year. What's that number? 25-1 this year, Jeff?
What's that? For
them to win the World Series, the Blue Jays?
I can grab that for you. Keep going.
All right, but my whole breakdown of the AL East, I'll give you guys, I got it memorized too, Jeff. My futures when it comes to the over-under wins and losses, and you guys can go ahead and book it if you want to. Up first, the Baltimore Orioles. I think the Baltimore Orioles are going to be one of the more improved teams in baseball this year. They definitely go over that 76.5 wins. I see that team being a team with a winning record, just like they were last year. Very disrespectful on how they treat the Orioles, Jeff. To be honest with you, they literally they. I know this hurts your feelings. This won't hurt your feelings because Jeff don't. Just like me, the sports thing is merely entertainment. But thing is, they did pass up your Boston Red Sox last year, and they did that because they were actually in the mix. That at one point, the AL East literally had everybody in the playoffs and everybody with winning records. Every team had a winning record, but the Yankees were just so far ahead of everybody last year. So I like them to go over 76.5. Your Red Sox, though, on the other hand, I just keep looking at that pitching staff. It does not intrigue me at all. And I told you this already. So I have them going under 76.5. But I think if we can get a good season from Verdugo, if Verdugo becomes the all-star that he's projected to be, like he was when he was a Dodger, and when we got the trade going for Mookie for him, because that was supposed to be all-star or future all-star with trading for current all-star. That was the guessing that the Red Sox had, because Verdugo was seen as one of the best prospects the Dodgers had ever had put together. And I think if Verdugo has a big year this year and he can get Kike Hernandez and Turner to kind of bring that Dodger mojo, that Dodger fun into the dugout, just like the old Red Sox, just like your Red Sox that won the title a few years, that beat a fun bunch. You know what I mean? That's how the Dodgers became a better team, because they stopped being so serious. They became the fun bunch. You know what I mean? So maybe if Boston does a fun bunch type situation, they could be better than the 76.5, the 77 wins they have locked in for them. But I don't see that happening. They can land right on 77, but I don't see them going over 77 this year. Yankees, I'll keep it real. I got the Yankees over 95. I think the Yankees win 100 to 105 games next year, because their pitching staff is the key. Their pitching staff is literally top 5 in the MLB, in my opinion, if healthy. You know what I mean? And then they get Chapman out of there, so they don't have to overspend on the closer anymore. That's good. Then the Rays, I got them taking a few steps back. They're 88.5 on the over-under. I actually have them going under, but I don't have them going under in the sense that they're going to be a team that's under 500. I just have them in a sense to where they'll be a middling team, and they'll be more of an 84, 85 win team than 80 over 88.5. And then I end with the Blue Jays. They're at 92.5. I think the Blue Jays that's easy money for us right now. I think the Blue Jays definitely went over 92.5 games, but I think they may not get to 100, Jeff, but I think that they'll be at 95.
At circa right now, plus 1,200 to win the World Series.
12 to 1, take it. It's a good number. 12 to 1 is a great number. I know it's not the biggest number, but 12 to 1 is nice. You know, 12 to 1 gets me excited at the track.
Plus 575 to win the AL pennant as well.
Okay, the 575, I would say bet them both, and then bet them. And the thing is, I got the Yankees winning the division at minus 150, but I still like the plus 320 on the Blue Jays a lot as well too. So I would say if you're a bettor, you take both those bets, because the Yankees ain't no guarantee to win the division. And then one is your insurance and the other one is your bonus. It's that simple. And if the bonus wins, that overrides whatever you was doing with the, with the insurance ticket.
And I'll have Scotty Webb on tonight. We do a Tuesday and Thursday night at 7. Actually, 7 on Tuesday, 9 p.m. on Thursdays. His Rays took a big hit. Glasnow was returning. They had a 1-2 punch of Glasnow and McClanahan on the Rays. Mm-hmm. And now Glasnow, oblique issue is going to be shut down for a while. So coming off of an injury, now oblique. Thanks, but no thanks. I think offensively, Wander Franco hit a homer yesterday. Randy Rosarina finally, hit one. He's a playoff specialist. Still living off of that World Series run he had a few years ago. But I think Franco will be a big part of that offense this year, hopefully. But I think the way I look at it now, it's going to be a Jays and Yankees, almost like your Padres and Dodgers. I can see these, those 4 teams just duking it out. Padres extend Manny Machado. I think everyone's trying to get these extensions done before the MLB tries to swoop in because of Cohen and the Mets try to get in a salary cap in the MLB, which they'll never get in anyways. But I think it's going to be definitely a fun baseball season. I can't wait. We got less than a month to go there on that, sir. And I agree with you. The Jays are going to be fun this year. And the kids got a year older. They got another year under their belt with Vladdy, with Bo. They can rake it with the best of them. And I like where your eyes are, sir.
And I just think that George Springer brings that Kirk Gibson effect. You know what I mean? That good old vet that has won a World Series before and was seen as one of the top players in the MLB for a decade or so, because Springer was, even in the bad years with Houston. And I think that's what sets them over the top, is that they have a veteran presence in him, and he leads things off for him. And I think that's the best 1, 2, 3 in baseball, period, point blank. When you really look at the numbers, it's like this is a real killer's row of 1, 2, 3. This is an all-star 1, 2, 3 right here. And, you know, when you have that at the top of your lineup starting the game off, it's going to make it really difficult on teams in a lot of games this year, especially when they go up to Toronto.
Where did George go to school?
I can't, you know, college guys, I never can just guess off the top of my head where they went to school at.
Take one guess.
UCLA guy? UConn of all places. So that means that by the end of all of it, he'll be Red Sox. They always find their way to Fenway, Jeff. You know that. They always find their way to Fenway.
Talking hoops. You know, Pops, I had Julian Edlow from DraftKings on earlier this morning for his weekly back from vacation spot. And I told him this way, the top 5, the way that it's built right now. I can wrap my head around Houston. I can wrap my head around UCLA. I can wrap my head around Alabama, even though I don't want to get into the Brandon Miller situation, because it will turn into undisputed here, and I don't want that. I can't wrap my head around Purdue, and I still can't wrap my head around Kansas, maybe because I like the Baylor team, and I don't know, defending champs. I know they're good. I know they are. And in a year that we say is wide open, as I told Julian, as I'm going to tell you, it's going to be wide open. Upset specials the first weekend, maybe the first half of the second weekend. But when you look at your brackets and you look at the Elite 8 and the Final 4, there'll probably be 3 1s and a 2. How do you see the top 5? Give us the UCLA report. I love that team. I go back to the O'Bannon brothers. When I saw them play that first time, I turned to my buddy and said, these guys are cutting the nets down. I think UCLA is that good.
And I know what game you're talking about. It was that Kentucky game in Anaheim that year. That was the game right there. And that was the game that everybody said, yeah, this is the best team in the nation right here. But UCLA, I think that they showed us that they were the best team in the nation in this year's college basketball when they absolutely crushed Kentucky at the Garden. They showed how they can play in a neutral situation. I know it didn't look good in the early part of the season because they were still trying to get to know guys a little bit. They were trying to, kind of push Amari Bailey into being the lead scorer because, he's a 5-star and you kind of got to do that. But then the seniors realized that, he got to really go ahead and earn his right to be our guy, to be our lead scorer. So Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell, with all the experience that they have really made it life that much more easier for the rest of the Bruins. Jalen Clark, a guy who's finally realizing his potential. He's playing big-time basketball as well, too. But then Will McClendon off the bench is great. But Bona is a defensive gem as well, too. And Mac Eteen is also a really good defensive player as well, too. But David Singleton is the X factor. David Singleton, Mr. 34, he didn't get any points in the Colorado game, but he's usually the sharpshooter for the Bruins. He'll go in there and he'll hit 3 or 4 threes for a game. He hits all the shots at a timely moment. So, it's really good. UCLA probably had their gutsiest win of the season because they had to play on a Sunday. They had 2 days off. It seems like in college basketball, when they give you a few days off, that you might struggle a little bit in a game, especially when you're in a weekend series with a team and you're out of town. So, you got to play. You play Utah Thursday night, then you had to fly to Boulder the next day, and then you had to hang out in Boulder for a day, and then you played the game. They got off to a really slow start. They were really bad. They hit no shots to start that game off. They were 0 for 9. And then they wound up going 9 for 15 to end the half. They got things a little bit closer. They were down 2, and then UCLA had to really scrape, and had to really scrap, Jeff. And it was probably their gutsiest win of the year, 60-56. If Jaime and Tiger were younger, they would have lost that game. But since they're older and they've been in so many of these battles, they live for it, and that's what separates UCLA from everybody. Because UCLA has been in these battles, they've been in wars in games, and you know this, Jeff. Their Final Four run. Come on, the Gonzaga game, even though they lost on a buzzer beater, that was tick for tat. Was it Arkansas they played or Alabama? It was Alabama, right?
Tick for tat. So.
It was tick for tack with them as well too. When it came down to playing Michigan, who was seen as one of the top teams, possible national title winner, it came down to, the little things. And UCLA won that game. UCLA is so battle tested that if you put them in a close situation, you're going to trust them a little bit more. You know what I mean? And everybody's ragging on North Carolina. I told everybody, North Carolina is going to turn it on when they need to turn it on. That's what the great ones do. It's not you guys got to get this out of your head that teams got to be 30-1. Those days are over with, where you have this very dominant team and where everything comes together. You have to expect 4 or 5 losses in college basketball nowadays. The parity's too much. It's just too much. It's just everybody's too good. You know what I mean? And I think that when you look at UCLA, they give you the confidence because they keep coming up short. And they have the coach that can put them over the top. And then I look at Kansas and say, they got back-to-back written all over them as well, too. Kansas is the one team that I know that can really go off in a game and really take you out of a game very early. Kansas is the type of team that's not going to blow a 20-point lead. It's that simple. You know what I mean? And Kansas is a team that has to be taken seriously. So really in my top 5, if I have to put my top 5, I'm going to give Kansas their props because they're the defending national champion. You're number 1. I'm going to put UCLA at number 2 because UCLA has been there in the Sweet 16 in a very highly competitive game. They played in the Final Four as well too. So they've had they got their guys from their group from this last pretty much Mick Cronin's whole run. You know what I mean? Only guys that aren't there is guys like Johnny Juzang and things like that. So I'll put them 2, and then I would put Houston 3 because Houston is the grown man group. They got the great Kelvin Sampson as their coach. So it's really about coaching and about their experience. They're like UCLA, lots of experience. Then I'm going to surprise you a little bit. Who I'm going to put in the 4 hole, who's playing some of the best basketball that has not been talked about all season, is Marquette. Marquette is playing good old Big East, punch 'em out basketball right now, in my opinion. And then I'll go ahead and I'm actually going to you're going to probably be like, Pop, what you talking about? You think I would say Alabama? I want to say Alabama because I think Alabama is really a top 5 team. But when I think about the SEC, for real, you just can't look past Kentucky. Kentucky's playing their best basketball of the season right now. And I just think that Alabama, Texas A&M, Tennessee have to understand that you got to beat Kentucky to win that tournament. It's no going around it. You're going to have to go through Kentucky to win this tournament. So I truly do feel like those 5 teams are the teams that you have to look at, and those are the teams that you want to bet walking into it. And I know Marquette is a little bit of a surprise for people, but I just think that Marquette's been playing is the type of team that really will be a team that can really ruffle feathers. You know what I mean? But in all, though, I still think the best team in the Big East are your UConn Huskies. You know what I mean? Because my thing is today. But UConn's in my group as well, too, on futures of winning the national title. I want to put Marquette in there because Marquette's the number 6 team in the nation. But when it comes down to this tournament, I feel like rankings, seeding does not matter in the Big East tournament. The Big East tournament literally is teams versus teams, just like it was when Georgetown won. Just throw the seedings out the window when it comes to the Big East. I'm serious because they all know each other so well, and it really comes down to who wants it more at the Garden because the Garden really makes everything what it truly is. You know what I mean? Instead of it being, okay, I got the crowd for me because I'm playing at this small-ass gym in Nova, I'll be okay. Georgetown can't win a game because they're playing an NBA arena and it's never a sellout. You know, now we're going to have your faithful fans here, and you got to show up for your loyal ones because they're the ones that will fight somebody on 33rd for you right after the game. You know what I mean? So to defend your name. So they know they got to play for these guys. And I think that UConn is ready to go ahead and make a big statement here because they already made a big statement before they started Big East play. But I know the way that Hurley's going to set this game plan up, he's setting this game plan up with the motivation that it's us against the world right now. And so I think that's going to be able to give them that chip on the shoulder that they need to go ahead and win the greatest tournament in college basketball.
There's no doubt in my mind. I was actually hoping they got that third game with Creighton in Madison Square Garden because I think there's no doubt as soon as the brackets come out and the odds, I'd be interested to see because I don't care if they finish third, fourth, or fifth in the regular season. If I'm a book and you're giving me plus money on UConn to win that Big East, shame on you because I don't care if Creighton, Xavier, Providence, Marquette all have a better record. The real people in these lanes know who the favorite should be because that's going to be a UConn crowd. That's their second home when it comes to the Big East. And I expect fireworks there. My problem is UConn is rounding into form like they played in December. You know this. Everyone that watches and listens to me know. I told everyone at 14-0, number 2 in the country, they're way ahead of schedule. This is the way they want to be playing in March, heading into April. And I'm afraid that they're going to win the Big East tournament or get to the finals in the Big East tournament. And there's another New Mexico State sitting there. I was in the MGM with Dave Sharapan, with Julian Edlow, with Matt Peralt. And I sat in front and I looked at the odds and I was listening to 50, 75 people as they're getting ready for their games on the next day. Not one person mentioned New Mexico State, and they were only 6-point dogs. I turned to these guys, and I'm like, UConn's going to lose this game. They're like, what are you talking about, Jeff? I says, they're going to not – I was at the Bellagio that day. I was at Aria that day. I was at MGM. Not one person. Everyone talked about every team playing tomorrow but New Mexico State. And sure enough, box to wire, UConn was nowhere to be found. So my point is, they have those brain farts. UConn's going to go as far as Jordan Hawkins takes them. And if he has a hot 6 games, well, they're going to go a long, long way. If he has that one bad game and they're looking for someone else to help them from the outside and they don't get it.
You're right. But I feel like UConn size is going to be the difference a lot. As long as they're not getting in foul trouble, UConn shouldn't. See, it's all about how you win the war. Because you got to be ready. You got to look at the teams that can win close games. You know what I mean? And I know that's where you get your doubts with UConn at because when they've been in close games, they didn't win. You know, they wind up, some mistake gets made. You know what I mean? And that's where I say where UCLA and Houston really are kind of a little bit ahead of everybody else is because – and Kansas is because they know how to win these battles, these small battles, the games that come down to the last 2 minutes, you know, things like that, and executing. And I think that's where UConn is still learning how to execute at a high level. And that's why it's like you have your doubts. But if they play the UConn basketball that I've been seeing, they're really hard to beat. And the way that they smoked Alabama, who's considered one of who's the second ranked team in the nation, they beat them from box to wire. They beat them like they stole something. You know what I mean? And I could be really funny and be like, they beat them like never mind. But what you call it? We'll keep it there. But and I said my little point about it. I just wish that we wouldn't be so quick to blame the guy who's not arrested for it. You know what I mean? Like, I understand the situation and everything like that. And I know that they're not doing everything the way that everybody wants them to do, but the guy did talk to the police. The university was very informed on what was going on, and the coach was very informed on what's going on. What the problem is that they're the number 2 team in the nation. They play in the richest conference in college sports, and they literally are. It goes back to where sports trumps all situation in Alabama, and that's what people just have to understand. If it was California, New York, okay, you can have your Madlock moment, you can have your CSI moment, but in Alabama, in Florida, in Texas, in these places, if they get cleared by police, they're gonna play, and it's just that simple. You know what I mean? They're not gonna play that game. They're not gonna suspend anybody. And you're just gonna be mad at home. There is no medicine for hurt feelings, Jeff. It's that simple.
I talked to a few people down in Alabama, and I brought up the situation. I says, okay, Brandon Miller. I says, inform me, the laws, the bylaws. I says, tongue in cheek, Pops. I says, I've watched enough Law and Order reruns where I know when someone gets a phone call at midnight and is asked to bring a gun, and he brings a gun to a scene where then he hands the gun to the eventual murderer, and those 2 suspects are now being charged for capital murder. He's an accessory to murder. And I was like, I was born at night, not last night. And the funny is this, Pops, is the AD hasn't stepped in, the SEC hasn't stepped in, the NCAA hasn't stepped in, and they're just following proper protocol. I get that part. I do. And that's why I haven't been promoting this on my show. And I did ask someone this question, and they were very true to me. I says, if this was Nick Saban, and I don't care if this was his star quarterback, his star defensive back, his star running back, would this guy be playing? There was a pause, and they said, absolutely not.
Right. And because he has somebody to replace that player. Alabama doesn't have anybody to replace that player. And basketball is just a sport at Alabama. Let's keep it real. Yeah, they like it, but it's in the same area as baseball and gymnastics. Nothing is, when it comes down to Alabama football, you have to protect Alabama football. Alabama basketball has had sanctions and all types of things happen to it. Who cares? It's just a bunch of guys running up and down the floor. You know what I mean? And they've never taken basketball as serious as they take football in the SEC. I've known that my whole life. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people are like, no, we do. I was like, no, it's never going to be Trump your football situation ever. Because I said that Kentucky doesn't even get the same type of love that they should get because they're not that great of a football school, but they're a great basketball school. You know what I mean? But they don't put Kentucky in the upper echelon like they always do Alabama and Auburn and Florida because they're good on both sides. You know what I mean? So, like you said, Jeff, I say just let them do their due diligence. Nobody needs to get all into a OJ situation where you're trying to be a criminal defense lawyer because that's not your job. You know what I mean? I think our job is just to watch the games, and who can participate in the games, good for them, and who can't participate in the games, hey, it is what it is. That's life. And I think that's exactly what we got to, as fans, we got to start doing is that we got to start worrying about who's on the court and not worry about what's going on the outside of the court because it doesn't affect our daily life. It really doesn't. It doesn't.
I think the closing scene in Beauty Shop when they're talking to what's the name on the radio station. With the names Mercedes, Porsche, we need to know who's on the court, not in the court.
Right. Exactly. I'm laughing because you brought up beauty shop.
Hey, that's one of the all-time classics.
Jeff, you hilarious, man. So now Jeff is told on himself he loved himself some Queen Latifah. I know Jeff was probably a big fan of Living Single too. You can't. I know Jeff.
Way back in the day,
Sunday night watching that Fox.
Way back in the day.
Look at that Latifah.
UNITY.
And I said that, and the craziest thing about it is her body type is like the most popular woman in today's world. They used to call her a big girl back then. That's nuts. She was considered a big girl back then. And it's like, you look at those old shows now, Queen Latifah is not a big girl. No. She's just a very, broad woman. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, I got to keep the PC words, but, it cracks me up that she's now like her body type is like the body type women want. And back then it was like, no, you got to be curvy, you got to be skinny, you got to be all that stuff. So it cracks me up. But Jeff, I know you with my idea. ESPN, get rid of the talking head shows, bring back the fitness shows. We need more Keanu's Time Flex Appeal. We need more Bodies in Motion. So guys like me and Jeff can have motivation in the morning to go really, really work out and not be looking at Twitter at 7 a.m. Trying to get mad about what some goofball troll was saying. Okay, so you stop with the talking head shows. Get us some exercise shows the country needs.
On TikTok, that Peloton girl is a beast. I forget her first name. She's a beast on there, though. The Peloton girl. I'll remember that for the next. Those were the days. I
want to be the next executive producer of any fitness show that they put on any of these networks.
Well, they all do them on their own now, so that's what happens.
They all do more with the idea to get the money, Jeff. Come on. ESPN just got to think about it now. That's it. You make your money, ESPN.
They're too worried about everything else. So, hey, listen. The scroll has been going the whole time at Pops Diabase, at Prime Wave Media. You are known to me, obvious, one of the OGs, the primetime capper himself. Pops, tell everyone where they can go to get all your picks, primetime tickets, shows, you name it. Tell them where it is.
Well, all right. You guys can catch me on the Twitter at Pops Diabase, as that says right there. You guys can also email me at Prime Wave Media. At yahoo.com with any inquiries and questions that you may have about sports betting or trying to join up and be a client, or where you can, or possibly if you're somebody that's in the media that might want to talk to me or something of that nature. You guys can always have inquiries, things like that. I'm always available. I'm always ready to be booked for some type of talking engagement if you need me to. Also, you guys can catch me on Instagram at DBICWave_. I put up my show on there every day as well, too. And I also, got some cool little stuff going on my story, but you can DM me there as well, too. And then you can see all my fun pictures to show all my work over the years that I've done, at the Super Bowl, at these fights and all that good stuff. And so pretty much you guys can catch me right there. And as I always say, it's always a pleasure to be with my brother, the Don of Cape Cod, Mr. Jeff Dawson. Always a pleasure. I'm glad that we're doing this every Tuesday now. And, just rapping and shooting the breeze and everything like that. But I know that we're going to get a little intense here because it's starting to be tournament time, and I can't wait. And today we got 4 conference tournaments going as well, too. We got the ASUN quarters. We got the Patriot League. We got the Horizon. And we also have the Sun Belt today. And I will say this, the Sun Belt Conference will probably be the best conference tournament of the week. I'll keep it real. They got a lot of good teams at the top in that. The top 6 teams all got a shot. So if you're looking for value there, I would say Old Dominion, James Madison, it's old friends. Because if you know college basketball like me and Jeff know, James Madison and Old Dominion used to be perennial teams. They used to be your 13 and 14 teams all the time. And I remember Old Dominion used to be a team that used to literally always get that first round victory as well too. James Madison had their times as well too. So, I'm just over here. I'm going back down memory lane, the old Colonial Conference. You know what I mean? And that conference, I bring it up because that conference now, the original members of that conference, Jeff, are all in major Division I college. They're all in real Division I conferences now. As you can see, a lot of them went to the A10. George Mason, Richmond, they go to the A10. But I'm just saying this because the Colonial was always a pain in everybody's side. It was the old, Mountain West, the old, I miss some of these conferences being as great as they were, especially Conference USA. Conference USA was pretty much the AAC, but a way better conference than the AAC. Let's keep it real. Cincinnati in their prime, West Virginia, Louisville, Marquette, TCU.
Hey, that undefeated Cincinnati team, we got robbed when Kenyon Martin got hurt.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And people have to understand, they used to have top 15 teams in the nation all the time. They were the equivalent of the Big 12 some seasons because they had Memphis in there as well too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Calipari's Memphis squad. Yes. And, but let me stop. I'm just going on and on and on. I'm just, Jeff gets me like that. Oh, Tulane, but Tulane wasn't that good.
If you're not following, please do. You can go follow me at EC Sports Invest, of course, and Pop Diabase at Pop Diabase and the Prime Wave Media. Always, always, always a pleasure, Pops. The two OGs right here, East meets West. Larry versus Magic, 33 versus 32. Go back on our timelines. We go way, way, way. We put the G in gambling Twitter. I can guarantee you that. So without further ado, thank everyone here. Around 4:30, myself and Riley Mag, Southside Riley, will be doing the closing bell. 7 o'clock tonight, myself and Scott Webb will be talking some MLB and some WBC. Till then, enjoy lunch, brunch, whatever it is, and we will see you soon.
And 1 o'clock primetime angles, Pacific time.